kindness is not weakness. Love is not weakness. And that you can be kind and still get paid. I tell myself this all the time. You do not have to abandon yourself in order to be successful. I think that's one of the most important things. I wanted to see kindness in this industry, so I am it. If you want to see it, you have to be it. That's how you show up the best version of you.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Best You interview series. It's Gary here again. Thank you very, very much as always for taking the time to join me today. And today I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by speaker and business strategist Brandi Mungia, who's here to discuss women in business and in particular the philosophy and practice of expansion in business and life through change by choice, and the importance of building a business around your life and not the other way around. I know that I've thrown a lot at you there. It will all become clearer as we get through the conversation. Before embarking upon her journey, and this is how I met Brandi, in fact, and turning into private advisory, Brandi served as an executive director for Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi's elite mastermind ecosystem, where she led hundreds of high-level curated sessions, scaled founder communities, and supported leaders driving tens of millions of dollars in impact. And alongside this, Brandi shared stages as a speaker, offering insights on leadership, duality, and expansion. These experiences taught Brandi that while tactics shift, the right room is always the catalyst. Now, Brandi brings expertise directly to founders ready to co-create their next evolution by working side by side with a select few, designing highly curated masterminds, intimate circles, and bespoke strategies that reflect partnerships and participants' unique leadership attributes as well. All of this is under Brandi's mantra that you don't need to chase what's next, you need to become what's next. And I absolutely love that part. So here's a wee bit of a history lesson for you. Brandi and I, as I mentioned previously, Brandi and I met during the mastermind. I'm part of the mastermind community and have been for a number of years now. And Brandi was one of my teachers on many, many of the topics. And being an educator myself, you get an affinity, you get to know and understand some of the mechanics behind the art and science of quality education. And one is preparedness, one is delivery, one is presence, one is genuineness and authenticity. And Brandi had every single one of those things, whether it was a small intimate session back in the day when there was maybe a dozen people on the session, or when there was literally tens and probably hundreds of thousands in other sessions when it was going global. And I loved that. And there was just that connection there. And especially when it's online, that's not an easy thing to do. And when game respects game, or game recognizes game, I think is the term that some people use. And I just had this admiration and affinity and curiosity about Brandi. There was lots of things that she shared over time, but it's always like a wee teaser for me where I'm like, right, I get that, I understand that. I'd like to know more about that. Now, why does she keep concentrating on this one particular area and keep coming back to that? So when Brandi made a career shift, I reached out and was absolutely thrilled, first and foremost, to get a reply. And then when I got an agreement that Brandi was going to come onto the podcast, as I said at the beginning, absolutely delighted, thrilled to have you here, Brandi. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh my goodness, Gary, it's an absolute pleasure to get to join you today. And thank you so much for such a wonderful welcome and opening. And it's been a journey, and it's been an honor and a privilege to get to watch that expansion happen for you as well. I mean, you have just, not only have you expanded and scaled, but it's just really amazing to see you seated in your own authenticity and what magic you bring to the table as well. So I'm looking forward to this interview today, and I look forward to the conversations that are going to open up and blossom here. So again, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So as I like to do at the very beginning, Brandi, is to get a wee bit of a history lesson. I provided my history, vantage point, but up to and including Tony and Dean's ecosystem, as you mentioned, and then the catalyst for you and I to chat was when you decided to leave that. Yeah. So give us a bit of an overview as to how things manifested themselves to get us to this point today.
Yeah, this is actually a really great question because a lot of people will ask me, how did you get into Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi's world? Like, how did you end up at that level? And I would say one of the most simple answers is through contribution. I think when we show up to environments where we seek to contribute without expectation, like truly seeking to contribute as much as you can, that contribution will naturally come forward as someone who not only leads from the front, but the results will speak for itself when you're contributing from that level of care and authenticity, as well as your knowledge. That contribution gets rewarded over time. And I think that journey started for me when I started my very first iteration of my business back in like 2017, where I was supporting and growing in the trauma recovery space. And I had came across Dean and Tony's very first collaboration around the knowledge business blueprint. And this was like the blueprint for getting myself better at marketing and all these things. Now, at the time, I had, over 10,000 followers on Instagram, and I was organically drawing in all of my clients. However, I wanted to learn better strategies, and that's how I landed in Dean and Tony's world. It was such an incredible community that I wanted to pour back into the community. I wanted to be the example of this is what it looks like when you lean into these strategies, you lean into your peers, you will expand. And I scaled it because of being a part of that space. So I had this reciprocity that I wanted to show people, like, this is absolutely possible. You can absolutely do six figures, multi six figures online. Like, it was like all these things. I got all excited. And it was the contribution to raise my hand and say, how can I support this community that poured into me? And I would show up in the Facebook groups, and then I was raising my hand to moderate at events. And through moderation, I got these opportunities to also coach within the Zoom chats, within the breakout rooms. And what started happening is my name started coming forward more and more from the peers in the room that were learning and were also loving the experience of when I would coach in the breakout rooms or when I would coach in the chats, and they would put it on surveys. And it was like it was starting to come up. And through that, there was an invitation put out for us to apply to be coaches for the brand. And when I applied to be a coach in the brand, I went through like 5 different layers of making it through that final round and was invited to be a coach on the team. And so that was kind of where the coaching within the mastermind ecosystem started. Through time, I quickly rose because I could teach more advanced strategies around scale, social media, marketing, those types of things. And so I started really standing out as one of the lead coaches. I had also been brought in for their courses. I've developed 12 different curriculums within that ecosystem, and had several different courses. I was a part of a bunch of different flagship programs. And I was always leading with gratitude, just so grateful. It was like every time I was invited to do something, I was like, what? Like, it was like this excitement of like, oh, I'm so thankful. And along the way, I would pull my peers forward as well. So when they were like, who else do you think could do this? And I'd be like, this person can do this and this person can do this. And we need to like, it was an incredible experience to be the student who became the teacher, who became the director, because there was this ability to see the through line, the journey, and be able to pour back into this space that poured so much into me. And so I was showing up with that heart of, I knew what it was like to be the student watching that stage and saying, one day, maybe one day, I will be on that stage. There's no feeling in the world that was the first time I stepped on the mastermind stage. And I was doing the High Ticket Academy, and that was my very first time like streaming that live to so many people. And it was just this like almost out of body experience of like, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I've made this part of my life come to fruition in my vision. It was this like this like anchor point.
Yeah.
And within the same, the same stretch, I was also invited to do World Summit, which is huge. Like, I mean, when you're sharing a stage with Tony Dean, Trent Shelton and Lisa Nichols and all these incredible people that I've looked up to, it just, this part of me was like, why me? Like, what did I do? But I had someone say to me in the last World Summit that I did, because I did 2 World Summits. The last one I did was in 2024.
Yeah.
And I met Tony for the first time in person at that event. And I just like, I had all the feels, because I showed up and was like, I didn't know he was going to be on site. And I was just like, this is so surreal, like sitting in the green room and being backstage as a speaker in that space. And I had a peer say to me, Brandi, when are you going to realize that you're a peer? Like, when are you going to realize that they invite you to do these things because they see you as a peer? They trust you with their stages. They trust you with their audiences. And you need to really absorb that that's where you have earned.
Yes.
And it just like, it's like, I always come to the table with that like white belt mentality. I'm never better than anyone there. I'm always the student seeking to learn, seeking to get better, seeking to contribute. And that essence has carried me forward in everything that I've done. And everything that I do, when I was invited into being an executive director, was saying, hey, we have this room and there's these members, and this is where we're at. Can you find the gaps? Can you fix it? Can you scale it? And within a year, we were able to not only retain, but it was really us scaling it to several members. I mean, it got up to 75 members before I had left. And it was so clear on what that program was, because it was really looking at it through the lens of, what does an ascension look like? What does a lighthouse look like? What does a peer-to-peer environment thrive and look like? And where could I allow Dean to look at what he wanted to expand in next, and where his presence could still be felt in the culture, but where he wasn't the like leading that whole entire room all the time. And I think that was so important to me as someone who enjoys designing environments while also supporting an owner and founder so they can expand in other areas of their business as well. So long story long, that's kind of the journey of ascension, was through the contribution, through my authenticity, through my ability to see things and create solutions for some of the gaps, but also to truly pour into a space that I cared about so deeply, that I respected so deeply. And that contribution ultimately came back to me in ways that were just, I'm blown away. I'm so grateful, and I'm truly blessed to have had those opportunities. And when I chose to exit, it was because I had hit my growth ceiling. I had recognized that although I was a part of this space for several years, I had enough of my peers in the room, enough of my mentors saying, it's time for you to expand outside of this. You've done a tremendous amount of things, and you can do so much more. And it was this like ability to choose and say to myself, man, I was so woven into the fabric of Mastermind that I had to have the courage to also see who I was in personal brand, who I was in my ability to contribute to other ecosystems, to other creators, to other founders. And my goodness, has it been such an incredibly fruitful season since exiting the brand. Again, I have nothing but wonderful things to say about that space. It's just nothing but gratitude for that space. And it's been an incredible journey since leaving the space, but it will always be a massive part of my testimony to never give up on a vision. Because when you get to the peak of a vision and you hit these parts where I'm like, I can't believe shared a stage with Tony Robbins, can't believe I contributed these things to this amazing ecosystem. And your system will always ask, what's next?
Yeah.
Now what? And that's the part that we shift into with gratitude, but also with discernment, right? So that's been the season I've been in, is the turning point season now. And my goodness, it's been a journey, but so powerful. I get to practice what I've preached for several years, and it's a testimony to when you choose to go all in on business and you really exercise the tools, the things, the aspects of scale. There's a lot of value that comes from being able to delegate, being able to lean in, being able to take risks, being able to follow up and follow through and put yourself in rooms. I mean, it's amazing. So
Inspiring. You know what? And what an incredible season. I absolutely loved that you started with the whole foundation of the successes that that you earned during that time was based on contribution. And it's so important that people understand the importance of contribution. I was just literally talking to a class yesterday where we were talking, and it's kind of towards the tail end of the semester as we record today, and we were kind of summarizing a bunch of things. And one of the topics in the class was networking, and
yeah,
some people's apprehension for networking. So I had said during that time of delivering the curriculum, don't consider it, don't make it all about you.
yeah,
Don't go in there and say, I need, I want,
yeah,
I. Go in and just go in with a, what can I give to this? What can I give to this room? What energy can I give to this? What expertise can I give to this room? If someone's standing on their own, can I go up and give them the gift of companionship,
so
of a body to talk to, of a friendly ear or something like that. And yesterday I was re-emphasizing that, and it was kind of interesting because there was an observer in the class from the university. They have to do this administration thing every now and again, and we had an opportunity to chat afterwards, but didn't chat about that. But she basically said, I can see you're very, very passionate about this topic, about this subject. And I said, I'm just trying to provide people with tools that are going to be practical and tactical that they can employ today. That if you're going into a room and you feel the feels of apprehension or noise, distraction, whatever that looks like, don't make it about you. Just turn around and say, what can I give? So an absolute a dynamite start. And that opportunity to, not everyone gets an opportunity to be able to, in a supportive environment, to say, I have plateaued here on this version of my career with this organization, and
yeah,
have your mentors confirm that with you, have your peers confirm that with you, to then, because sometimes there's things tugging on your heartstrings when you're like, oh, do I really want to do this? And the interesting part of the conversation that no one knows until I just tell you what's happening right now is when Brandi and I had a conversation a while back about Brandi coming on the podcast. The conversation was going to go in a different direction because Brandi had said, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is what I'm going to be concentrating my efforts on. And not even 2 months later, something, Brandi says, before we started recording, oh, by the way, let's not talk about that because that's not really the focus anymore. The focus is this, which then gives you that opportunity to really lean into some of the things that we were talking about in terms of building a business that's going to suit you, understanding and knowing what you need to do in order to live to your truth and provide the most value that you're providing, and giving yourself that opportunity to, as I said at the beginning, change by choice. So
yeah.
tell me a wee bit about that journey that's happened over the last wee while.
Oh, so good, Gary. I'm loving this conversation because I love that you poured into your students as well, for them to, and anyone listening to here today. You'll never regret contributing. You'll never regret giving it all. Even if there's no monetary gain from it, if there's no opportunity from it, you'll never regret giving. You will never regret pouring into someone else. Contributing at that level, it pours back into your cup. So I have to say that, from, we don't have to hide our best stuff.
Yeah.
Give your best stuff. The right people will come forward and they will value your best stuff. I promise you that. You'll never regret giving it. Don't let it live inside you. And there's many ways that you can give it. That's why social media exists. That's why when you're given opportunities and someone's like, can you speak on this? Can you do this? Say yes. Like, say yes to those things and watch how much you expand, how much you learn from your contribution. Like, that's just one little nugget I want to drop in here before I dive into what we were going to chat about next. But when we are making decisions to grow and expand, I'm still contributing. I'm still showing up in ways where I can give, because when you give without expectation, there's going to be people who are like, what do you want? And I'm like, I just want to give you care. I just want to help. That's all I want. When I see people grow and expand, that fills my cup. And there's something I enjoy speaking on, which is the ability to be the love, be kind, and still get paid. Okay. Because you can be kind and passionate and loving and still hold yourself at a high, high value, especially when you're contributing your skills at such a high level and you're changing somebody's trajectory in their business. That is important that you attach an investment to that time. Okay. So to answer your question, Gary, when I was in this pivot point of when I had left this incredible space that I loved, I contributed to, there was a lot of pressure and presence. And something that happens in anyone that owns a business, anyone that's making massive decisions, you learn to master the art of duality. And duality is when you're navigating something that seemingly could be pressure or negative or stressful and something positive and expansive at the same time. And it was this like exit of, oh my gosh, everything I've contributed. What am I, who am I when I'm not a part of this brand? And I went to what was safe for me, which was I was known for marketing. I was known for social media. I was known for like building communities and doing these things. I was completely almost ignoring what I had been invested in for. Because when I was brought in as that executive director, I was invested in to fix that problem. And I was like ignoring that big, huge part of what I enjoyed. Yeah. And as I was stepping into new rooms, as I was coming into new events, I was speaking on new stages, I was speaking in new rooms, I was introducing myself to people outside of that ecosystem. And I'll never be able to fully like embody or I guess explain what this feels like when I go into a new room and someone recognized me from the room I came from. So like going into a room of new people that I'm like, this is an event that's not affiliated with, it's not the same environment. And I had people recognizing me from that environment. So that was an indicator that there was this ripple effect of impact was there. Impact was felt even after I left. I think that was such a beautiful part of this journey for me, to see that even in my decision to leave, the impact will still be felt, that I was able to still help people from that level. And when I pivoted into this, I like looked at, okay, what's my quickest way to pivot? And I opened a community and I did this thing and I went all in on the things I knew I could do because I was a curriculum maker. Yeah. I am a teacher in my essence. Like I can build curriculums all day. I went into my curriculums and I started teaching. And then I started feeling that pull in my system where it was like, well, you can do this, but is that what you really want? And it's this ability to look at your value in a different way. And I want the listener to hear this part, because sometimes we're chasing the quick win versus the expansive win. Okay. So if you look at your offer, if you look at your skills as almost like a bullseye or a ring, that center part of your skill set that people would invest the most in is where your proximity to them is closest, where the problems you solve are bigger, where they see your ability to collapse time lives in the middle. It's compression, right? How can you compress time for them so you can take a 3-year project and get it done in a year? What is it your skill can do to really speak volume to your most expansive, your most aligned, your most invested clients? Okay. For me, that was being the architecture of masterminds and private collectives. For me, that was like when I look at being an architect for that, I'm the person that calls in and says, I want a custom home. Okay. I want a custom room that's mine. And I want it to have all these things. And then we lay that blueprint out together and then I execute it. Yeah. And that's because I know which buttons to push, which levers to pull, which people to bring in, how to do it quickly and to do it with finesse. Okay. That's what I enjoy in that centerpiece. Then there's this middle ring where people can get access to me, maybe in a group setting, maybe in a one-to-one strategy environment. It's not as intimate as this middle ring, but it is still very close. And it is where I enjoy my bandwidth in these 2 rings. I enjoy my bandwidth here, where I can help people expand. That outer ring is the low ticket, the evergreen, yes, can you still access my strategies in a self-guided environment? Can you access my strategies from a social media standpoint? Absolutely. But I was not going to focus anymore on building out a book or building out a course or building out these things. I said, no. I really enjoy this. I would rather look at attracting the right fit 3 to 5 people to my center than seeking 1,000 people on my outer ring and stressing myself out on all of those pieces. And that's how I was able to then anchor in, this is what I do. And in the last 4 months of me exiting, I've aligned with some incredible clients that are just, they not only see my authenticity and my passion, and they're like, I just love your passion. But my goodness, how we move the needle.
Yeah.
It's like when we look at moving the needle for somebody, when we look at taking somebody's vision and expanding it so quickly and watching those results, my gosh, it is just, it's amazing. The ripple effect that I've been able to contribute to, and having that reciprocity when somebody invests in my time, invests in my skill, and feels connected to the outcomes. That was the turning point for me, when I designed something for someone and recognized that that was a need in this industry. And then I started getting referred to other people. And this person would come and say, I know someone who has a great mastermind. They've got 30 members, but they're trying to get to this. And there's all these things. They're still owner operator. And I'm like, say less, I've got you. And so that's the part that I get to come in and fix those gaps, but I also get to take someone's vision and bring it to life so they get to be the owner, not the operator. So yes, am I a strategic advisor, but I'm also a strategic operator and an architect and a steward of these spaces. And that really lights me up. That's what really drew me forward to where I was ready to go. It's so in business, anyone that's listening, when you're the owner, guess what, my friends? You can pivot at any time. You can change everything on your website and no one would know the difference. You can change all of your pay structure and no one's going to know. You can change your offer right now. Now, where you really don't want to get too, you don't want to change it too much, but you do want to do this, test it, see what lands. And my goodness, has this landed for me? Gosh, this landed for me in ways where I was like, why was I ignoring this about myself? Why was I running away from this thing that I am so good at and I'm so passionate about, and going to what was safe? That was the risk part. I needed to take a risk on my ability to pour into something that was so high value. And then when it was so well received by my clients that said yes to investing with me and working with me, it was just the anchor and the clarity of, this is why I was being pulled into that direction. And then instead of ignoring it, I just went in on it. And it has been incredible.
Yeah, and it's such an epitome of expansion, expanding your opportunity and your offering straight away, and then having an expansive experience after that to say, you know what, it's actually not that, or not all of that, it's more of this. And just
Yes.
putting yourself, I know you've mentioned a couple of times, Brandi, being in the room, but putting yourself in that space to saying, I'm actually open to having this conversation now. And I know you mentioned, why was I ignoring that before? You probably weren't purposefully ignoring it. It just hadn't bubbled up yet. It hadn't consciously, created an opportunity to say, I've always been here. I'm still here, and maybe now is the right time to be able to do that. Now, what I loved about what you said also was being paid, being remunerated for the work that you're doing. And I specifically remember this from one of the classes that we did together, where and you delivered it so eloquently that day, where you'd mentioned you've had potential clients who have been on the phone or on a call, possibly even face to face, that have said that they're in tears, that they're at such a desperate stage, and they're saying, I need this service, but I just can't afford it. Surely there's a way that we can work something out. And your message, the message I got, and I could probably find it in my notes, the message that I got from that class that day was, you can't, because you're not actually helping them. Even although almost everything within your being is saying, I have to help, but you still need to know and understand that it's a business and you would be creating an unrealistic expectation for that person. And you're starting off on a footing that isn't sustainable for you nor the other person, because there's some other feelings and emotions and practicalities and fiscal challenges that are around that. How do you weave that in? Not weave that in. How do you create that sense? Because I'll tell you what I remember where you had said, and I still live with this now, where you said, listen, I'm not saying that you don't have any access to me. And it's kind of like the outer circle that you were discussing just there. I'm not saying you have that, but you could check me out online. You could check out my website. You could check me out, wherever it is you have a presence. There's a bunch of stuff there that will probably address your needs. But if you're looking for this intimacy, if you're looking for this genuine focus, this proximity, like you mentioned, that's not for sale at the price point that you can afford right now. But it's not a no. It's a go do this other stuff, see how that helps you, and then possibly you can make some meaningful change that's going to give you an opportunity to be able to afford that in the future and come back there. How did you get, or maybe you're not, but it sounds like you are. How did you get to a spot where you have comfort around those types and styles of conversations?
Oh, this is so good. I'm so glad that you brought this forward, because there's, as a recovering people pleaser,
Yeah.
I had to learn how to navigate this all the time, because I am kind, and kindness is not a weakness, nor should it be weaponized. And when people have learned patterns of catastrophizing to get what they want, you're actually doing them a service by not engaging with their catastrophizing, by telling them that I am here for you, I care about you, and I will not allow this shift, right? I'm not going to devalue myself in order to anchor someone's belief, right? Like, I'm not going to devalue myself to build trust. Okay. There's other ways to build trust without devaluing, without being reactive to someone's catastrophizing. And this actually is a part of when we look at it holistically, almost like a trauma recovery response, because when you've been through a lot of trauma in your life, or you are a recovering people pleaser, is because you learned to self-abandon in order to get to the other side of something. You learned to appease people to keep the peace, versus standing firm and anchored in who you are. It doesn't change who you are when you tell someone no. Okay, I just need everyone to hear this, that if you struggled with value, you're actually holding yourself at a higher value by saying no to someone who's asking you to devalue yourself. It is the most self-respecting, most self-loving thing you could do, by saying no to someone who's inviting you to devalue yourself. And as I've entered thousands of conversations with people who say to me, I want to work with you and I just can't afford it right now, that's okay. I respect your budget. I would never ask of you something that creates strain. And these are ways that you can still learn from me. When you're ready, I'm still here. And it's this ability to keep the door open while politely saying, I will not change this. I will not move this line for someone who's seeking to catastrophize. Am I still willing to contribute? Because earlier when we talked about contribution, right? Your contribution is not to be weaponized. That's another factor, okay? That's something that I have also had to navigate. When someone's like, well, can you just do this thing? I am so grateful to provide pre-recorded content that does not require my bandwidth. Okay. So there are ways that you can do things that don't require your bandwidth or self-abandonment in order to still serve and support, pointing people to things that they can still learn from you. And when you hold the standard of to work with me in a one-to-one capacity for me to solve this problem for you, there's a return on investment there. Okay. When somebody invests in you and your skills and what you're capable of fixing for them, Those are high value skills. That's why they're coming to you. Can you do this? Can you customize this for me? Yes. And this is the investment to do so.
Mm.
And I know there's going to be times for the listeners here. You've had people who are in a turning point in their life. They're having a hard time. They're crying right in front of you. And the ability to say to them, I see you. I hear you. I've been there. I know that you're going to move through this season. I'm so grateful that you trusted coming to me and sharing your transparency and sharing your vulnerability with me today. I'm not rejecting you. I want you to know that this is how I move things forward in my business. When you're ready, I'm still going to be here for you. And I don't want you to take this as rejection, but that I love you, I care about you, and that when you're ready, I'm still going to be here for you. You can continue to send me a voice message on Facebook, or you can continue to follow me. And when you're ready for the one-to-one time, I'm happy to do that with you. But you're going to move through this season. It's going to be okay. And it's okay
Dynamite.
to do that.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. And even just that authenticity, that I mentioned briefly earlier, I can feel that coming through. I mean, it's such a graceful conversation, and the way that you had educated me that day is stuck with me to this day of saying, a version of that would be my version of that, but just exactly the same scenario and situation there. And it's it's so important, to put yourself at the center of that, in terms of the devaluing, because these manipulation tactics might be in some way subconscious. They might just, that as you mentioned,
That's how they've learned to get what they want.
yeah, exactly. Through life, maybe even as a toddler up to adult.
Even adulthood, yeah.
Yeah, and it's so important to invest that time, and especially to create obviously the boundary for yourself to make sure that
Oh,
what's in
absolutely.
stays in.
Absolutely. If they're behaving that way in a discovery situation, how are they going to behave as a client?
Yeah,
So at the end of the day, you can still love people and hold yourself at a high standard. And I've even ran into this into my higher end contracts where we're negotiating terms, or we're negotiating rev share, or we're negotiating what that investment is, and still holding firm on the value.
yeah,
Not devaluing the investment, but changing the scope of work.
yeah,
Okay, so if someone says, I can't afford to work with you at that level, okay, fine. Let's change the scope of work. Do we shift it into a pilot where we can ramp up into a full-term contract?
yeah.
Find ways to not devalue yourself where you can adjust, adapt, and overcome, and meet someone where they're at without abandoning yourself, your skill, your ability.
Yeah.
Right. And it's okay to hold yourself at a really high level and high standard. It's important that we look at ourselves and say, I respect myself enough to walk away from something that does not serve what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
If somebody is devaluing you, then they're telling you that's how they're going to treat you the entire time. And if you're willing and able to walk away from something that seems good, something better is absolutely going to come for you. I'm a testament of this. I promise you this. I have walked away and said no to misalignment. When someone is misaligned with me, as you can feel it in your system. I'm sure you've experienced this too, Gary, where like you've worked with someone where you're like, there's resonance and they're kind of taking advantage. I can feel it. And it's okay to walk away from someone who is using you, who is taking advantage of you, who might be weaponizing your kindness, taking advantage of your ability to contribute. And when you need to hold firm on, okay, I've contributed, and are you seeking to move into a more full-term contract here? Because I can no longer continue to contribute at this level without an investment attached to it.
Yeah.
And you will see what shifts when you have those conversations. Because it was never about your contribution. It was about how much can I use this person before they stop giving. And when you attach your monetary value to your giving, they show up differently also in respect to what you do.
Yeah.
And I've noticed this from being a contributor, being someone who gives and loves. I don't get upset in a way that when I've recognized someone's been taking advantage of me and maybe I'm trying to earn a trust, and that's why I'm still giving. I will genuinely allow myself to say no to something when I recognize, okay, my giving is actually not being reciprocated. And it's not that I'm giving with seeking reciprocity, okay? It's that I've recognized I've come to a point of giving that I'm like, wow, this isn't actually being respected. And it's not about reciprocity at that point. It's about not being respected.
Yeah.
And I don't seek to do things in a transactional way. And when you are building contracts for someone, when you are building a solution, there needs to be a transaction attached. So yes, you can be giving, kind, loving, knowledgeable, and invite someone to the transaction of getting to leverage your time, your expertise, your knowledge, your experience. And when they invest in that leverage, then you can move the needle with them. They respect it differently. They show up differently. They will contribute to the process with you, which is so powerful. And I think there's a gift that's given when I've walked away from things because I've recognized that I did no longer want it to be used in an environment. I have walked away with love, with care, with gratitude. I would still say, you know what, it's a great environment for other people. And when they're ready to invest in me, they know how much that costs. They know how much that investment is and what I'm capable of. I'm still going to be here for them, but I may say no after how they've treated me from before. And that's the part that you can sit in your power to say no. Doesn't make you mean, doesn't make you a bad person, doesn't mean it's your ego, doesn't say that I'm better than everyone, that's why I say no. It's saying I'm not willing to abandon myself in order to be successful.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to self-sacrifice in order to be successful. I want you to hear this, everyone that's listening, because you can be authentically you, loving, kind, and giving, and still be successful. You will have the people. I have handed over multi-six-figure contracts to clients that have said yes to me without blinking. Okay. I have had clients that said, that makes sense. I love this. I look forward to working with you. We've moved the needle substantially in a quarter, and they are so happy with their investment. They are so happy. And that was my intention. Not just the happiness, but the growth that came from it. But them seeing value there without asking me to compromise.
Yeah.
Without asking me to bring my price down, to change who I am, to anything other than I see you, you can solve my problem. I'm so grateful for you. Please come in and fix this for me faster. And I do that, and they feel connected to their investment. That exists, okay? Everyone that's listening, I want you to hear that exists. The people who say yes, who see your value, who will never ask you to devalue yourself for their gain. I promise you that. And you get to live in alignment, full alignment, which is so, so powerful to be in a flow state like that. Truly, truly is.
Definitely. And what I loved about what you said there is there's real intention behind everything, you know. So and it's not one size fits all, you know, the taking away the transaction part to say, how can I serve you in the beginning? Let me find out a wee bit more about it. So it's not a hard and fast, before I even take a call, you sign this piece of paper. It's saying, let's go on a journey together. We'll discover some things, and then we'll have a conversation when the time is right to say this is what it looks like, and it's going to be different for different organizations and different people depending on the types of transactions. Now, the one thing I would remember from, and mostly from the comments from some of the larger events, is that some people would say, well, that's okay saying that, but I have bills to pay. You know, so if someone comes in and I'm looking at you know, let's say a $10,000 potential, which is really worth 25, but I could really use $10,000. Back to what I said about intention. If you're doing it with clarity, and that's maybe a big gap, but you know, for example,
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
that's a great example,
you're
actually.
doing it with clarity, and you're doing it with an opportunity to say, you find me in a bind right now, and I need to meet some numbers for this particular quarter, this particular period of my financial picture for this year. But what I want to be very clear about is this is a typical $25,000 investment, and this is not a marketing, get this for this or anything. I'm just telling you a fact right now. However, I'm willing to do it on this particular occasion for you, with an understanding that, you know, we will make this a success. but don't expect this next time, when things are
Well,
not.
yeah, I love that you brought this forward because I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, that's okay. Okay.
I see this and I'm gonna, is it okay to challenge you on this? Because I actually
Definitely,
really love that you brought this forward
definitely.
because a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with this. And I have had to adapt to this as well because sometimes a higher ticket is out of budget. They still want a solution. They're willing to meet you and still invest in you at a higher amount. So that is where a pilot comes into play. And you can say to someone, the normal scope of this for 25,000, I'm going to use your example.
Yeah.
The normal scope for the 25,000 was for a month of time with me. And what I can do for the next 10 weeks, or excuse me, 10 weeks, for the next 2 weeks is I can dive in deeper into a compression with you. And we can do that for 10,000. And from that compression in the pilot period is I will completely take what we've talked about and I'll be able to start that process and we can phase it for that first 2 weeks. Once you see that shift happen, then we can make the additional investment to move forward. How does that sound? Now, this is where we negotiate, not the price, the scope. We don't devalue. This is a $25,000 investment. We don't want to say, I would normally charge $25,000 for this. We say, okay, if $25,000 is out of your budget, I respect that. So you've shared with me that $10,000 is more in your budget. So what I can do for $10,000 is I can adapt to this scope of work for $10,000 and we can move forward from there. So we remove scope. We don't remove price.
Yeah.
And that's where that sometimes the trust gets built really quickly in that quick scope that happens in the 10,000 investment. And they're like, oh my gosh, no wonder this is a $25,000 investment as we move forward. Right. And then they're happy to pay the difference because they're like, you've done so much in this part. I'm so excited to make that next investment. And that is where they feel the return. So if the larger number becomes too big for them, and they need a start point, develop a pilot, develop something that is a stepping stone, a ramp up to the long term for them. Because sometimes they need to see something work in their investment to feel connected to the next investment. And that's just a trust build, proposal, right? It's not devaluing you, just changing the scope of work. And that's something you can always adapt to with clients. I've done that in my turning point season. I've done it a couple of times in pilots and then earned the trust within the 30 days to say yes to a longer term commitment. And those were 5-figure contracts. So I can tell you that earning trust happens in the work that we do, not in the monetary investment. It's the work.
I love the pilot idea and even the concept of a pilot. Everyone in business will understand the concept of the pilot to say, okay, because a lot of times what I was really getting from what you were saying there is a lot of times the client just won't know. They'll just be in a situation where they're saying, this number makes me feel very, very nervous because I have no idea of the process. I have no idea if it's going to work. Yes, I've had a recommendation. Yes, I trust the people who've recommended. I still don't know because I don't have any experience of that. So then that conversation around the pilot to say, well, let's talk about this and let's actually lean into this and do some work that will give you a level of experience and confidence to then make a more informed decision in the future. If the decision is, yes, let's go, we go. Yeah. If the decision is, let's park it for now, we'll park it for now.
And what it does is it removes the resistance from within you.
Yes.
Because when we try to tell someone, I normally would charge 25,000 for this and I'm giving it to you for 10, there's resistance attached to that.
Of course.
Resistance for you and potentially resistance for them. And so when we say, I'm happy to support you, let's redesign something that's more in your budget for the scope of work. And we can absolutely make something fit your budget of 10,000. And as we start to work through that together, then we can revisit a more long-term contract when we start seeing results from this first part. Now what you're doing is you're retaining the trust that you know what you're doing. You're respecting their budget. You're not devaluing yourself. You're just changing a scope of the amount of work that you could do in that budget window. Yeah. And what happens in that time where they're like, actually, yes, let's start this project. They will see from the first week of working with you in a one-to-one environment or any type of immersive environment with you, they will see exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah.
They will see exactly why you were referred to them, why you know what you're doing, why they made the right choice. That's the power in all of this.
An absolute wonderful education that you're providing for everyone. Your passion, your enthusiasm, absolutely everything is exactly as I expected, is exactly as I've experienced before. And I'm sure that the existing and future and past clients that you've had have felt the exact same. As you know, Brandi, this is the Best You podcast. And what I like to do is take an opportunity to ask every single guest to give me an overview of the things, the regular practices that you employ to give Brandi the best opportunity to be the best version of yourself each and every day.
Oh my goodness, this is so good. I know it's going to be really individualized for each person. One of the things that I do to really lean into the best version of me is really re-anchoring every time I enter a conversation with someone new that it's okay to be authentically me, and that some people will receive that, some people won't, but it's most important that I stay aligned with who I am. And that alignment often will spark and inspire resonance in other people. So staying connected to who you are, authentically you. Kindness is not weakness. Love is not weakness. And that you can be kind and still get paid. I tell myself this all the time. I have a sticky note on my desk. You can be kind and still get paid. And that you do not have to abandon yourself in order to be successful. I think that's one of the most important things. I wanted to see kindness in this industry, so I am it. If you want to see it, you have to be it. That's how you show up the best version of you. Everything that you do is, if you want to see it, you have to be it. And to show people that that authenticity exists, and they'll align with you that way. You become magnetic that way, and you'll do things out of alignment versus resistance.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Brandi, before I let you go, where can people find out more about you?
Oh my goodness. Quickest way is you can just go to brandimungia.com. That's just my first name, last name.com. That's simple. All my social media is there. Everything's there. But you can always find me on any social media channel. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always happy to support you. I enjoy being able to connect with new people at any time. So having a incredible time being a part of this with you, Gary. Thank you so much for having me. And if there's anything I can ever do to further support you, you know exactly where to find me.
Right back at you, Brandi. Thank you very, very much. This has been absolutely incredible. Dynamite today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Hello again. Thanks again for tuning in to this episode, and I do hope that you found it valuable and gained some insights. I do have an ask for you. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would absolutely love it if you would connect with me on my socials, and that's at LinkedIn, Facebook and YouTube. Just search for my name and do whatever it is you need to do there to follow me and stay updated with all the latest content, tips and discussions. And for any more resources that you're looking for, feel free to visit my website, garygillen.com. And while you're there, you can book a free, no obligation 30-minute coaching call directly with me through the site. Whether you're looking to enhance your performance or tackle a new challenge, I'm absolutely here to help you succeed, and I would absolutely love to hear from you. Thanks very much again, and until next time, keep pushing towards your goals and getting better each and every day, my friend.